Entity SEO secrets in 2026. There's no one better to be speaking to than Jason Barnard when it comes down to branding and entity SEO. So, Jason, you've been optimizing the algorithms for the last 27 years, since 1998. I think that was before I was born. Yeah. And after all that time, what do you know most SEOs haven't figured out yet?
Brand. And what I was thinking about it the other day. I've been working in SEO 1998, the year Google was incorporated. So I've grown up with Google. And I've been through all the ups and the not very many downs that Google have had. And very early on in my career, I bet on Google. There were loads of different engines like Excite or Magdalene or Hotbot was another one. There were dozens of them. And I ended up thinking, okay, I can't work on all of them because they all have different rules. I'll focus on Google. And was it a lucky bet or a smart guess? Don't know, but it worked. And I ended up with 1 billion page views for a site for kids in 1 year, 2007. And 1/5 of that came from Google. And why I'm saying that is because we got 800,000 from elsewhere. Because I built such a strong brand. It was a kids site with 2 characters, Boo-Wah and Koala. And we got immense amounts of traffic from people recommending us, from listicles, from schools, and from Google. And it was a really lovely flywheel. And what happened, even though Google wasn't smart at the time, there was a circle and a cycle that was self-elevating, if I may use an AI kind of word, elevating, which is a horrible word that I keep now using, where Google would send us traffic, that traffic would convert, they would stick around, they would recommend us, that sent us more traffic, and it just went up and up and up and up. And looking back, I'm thinking, actually, the whole thing was brand. Google kicked off our fame, but that 1 billion page views came from brand, and only 1/5 of it at the end of the day was from Google. Whereas at the beginning, 90% came from Google. I think that's a really big lesson.
Yeah, for sure. And something that I want to kind of touch on is frameworks, because I think frameworks becomes very, very important, especially for what you're doing and who you're doing it for. And you always tell me that you've got a framework that you use for every single client. You do a lot of branding, you do a lot of knowledge graph optimization, entity kind of optimization and stuff like that. So can you walk us through this framework that you say that you use for every client?
Yeah, and the framework is completely about brand. So it's called understandability, credibility, deliverability. I call it the CaliQube process. Understandability, does the machine understand who your brand is, who it serves, and indeed what you offer? Credibility, are you the most credible, authoritative offer in your market? In your market. Deliverability, does the machine have the understanding and the confidence in your credibility to deliver you to the subset of their users who are your audience? So the CaliQube process, understandability, credibility, deliverability. Understandability at the end of the day is the bottom of the funnel, branded search. People are about to convert. Credibility, middle of the funnel. People who are comparing you to the competition. Can you beat the competition by being seen and accepted as the most credible, authoritative, best solution to the problem the person is trying to solve? Deliverability at the top of the funnel. Does the machine introduce you to the conversation at the top of the funnel when the person hasn't started asking about brands or comparative brands? They're just researching the topic. So it's universal. I invented it in 2019. It finally crystallized. It was after a conversation with Gary Ilyash that I got the last piece to the puzzle, which was deliverability. I'd already got understandability, credibility, and I do everything in threes. I was looking for that final piece, and Gary Ilyash didn't tell me it. He inspired it by telling me how the algorithms worked, and that gave me the final piece where the CaliQube process turns out, because it's founded on brand, that it is universal and applies to any person, any company, any product, any service, any music group, any music album, any film, any entity. Understandability, credibility, deliverability always works.
So with regards to the CaliQube process framework, then how can you measure the brand is understood? This is the big bit where there's certain things that can be tracked and certain things that can be measured. How can the CaliQube process framework be measured?
For years, I was looking at the knowledge graph from Google. If you're in the knowledge graph, it's understood who you are. Full stop. Now, obviously, we've got the other machines, much more difficult to measure it. But at CaliQube, because we've got 25 billion data points sitting in the database that I've collected since 2015, from Google's knowledge graph, now from Google's enterprise knowledge graph, from branded search results specifically, which allow us to look into Google's little brain, because branded results allow us to understand whether Google has understood. And now I'm applying that exact same strategy to ChatGPT, to Perplexity, to Copilot. Does the answer that they give to your name, who is James Dooley, demonstrate fundamental, solid understanding, yes or no? And I'm not guessing, because I've got 10 years of data from Google to compare their brand SERPs and now their Gemini results to the AI resume, we call them now, the AI resume, the brand SERP in the AI era. So I can actually create a very accurate and meaningful measurement of does the machine understand you by using the current results and mapping them to the brand SERP results that we still collect from Google.
Yeah, but when we're talking about entities and branding, right, what's the difference between a brand or an entity being found and then a brand being recommended?
Well, being found, somebody sees you. And I would argue, and there's a lot of talk today about citations in AI. And that's my big win. I've been cited by AI. And that's being seen in the AI, which is brilliant. So the person has asked a question of ChatGPT. ChatGPT has used one of your links within the citations that it's provided. That's a win. But it isn't recommending you. The recommendation is when the person says, when push comes to shove, who do you recommend? The answer has to be you. When I compare supplier A to supplier B, it has to pick supplier A, you, every single time. So being seen, in that particular instance, supplier B has been seen, discovered, but it's not being recommended.
Yeah, that makes sense. So if someone's watching this now, what's one key takeaway that they can do tomorrow? What would that be?
I always start at the bottom of the funnel with the brand. With, does it understand you? Does AI understand you? Does ChatGPT understand you? Does it understand you with confidence? Does it understand you in detail? Jono Alderson talks a lot about all the detail you need to get into this machine's brain. So the first thing to do is look at your entity home web page, the about page on your website, make sure it's clear, make sure you've explained exactly who you are, what you do, who you serve, and why you're credible. But also then expand that thought out and say, I'm going to focus on my entity home website. Every page of your website is an educational opportunity for you to push your brand story, your offers, your credibility into the brains of the machine. You need to optimize your website from top to bottom as an educational resource for the AI. And looking at it from the perspective of saying, I'm educating the AI with the aim that the AI will recommend me to the subset of its users who are my audience. So the AI is simply a conduit to the people I'm trying to reach.
And when you're talking about these funnels, there's lots of different funnels like Ada and all the rest of it. But everything you seem to have like coined your own branded funnel with understandability, credibility, deliverability, UCD, then there's some that's CUD and stuff like that. Can you go through that funnel of UCD and CUD for credibility, understandability and deliverability?
Yeah, it's funny you should mention AIDA and other kind of marketing frameworks. I've been analysing that for the last couple of years now because I don't know all of these frameworks. So what I've done is sat down with ChatGPT, I've got a ChatGPT AI assistant and a Google Gemini AI assistant, and I use them both. And I've asked them, how do they contradict or conflict with the CaliQube process? Understandability, credibility, deliverability, seeing that as bottom of the funnel, middle of the funnel, top of the funnel. And in every single case, from ChatGPT and from Gemini, it doesn't conflict. The CaliQube process adds value to each of these frameworks. So if you go to CaliQube.com, there's a whole set of articles that tell you how you can continue using those frameworks and add the CaliQube process as a beneficial addition to that process, to that framework.
Yeah, for sure. So anyone who's watching this with regards to entity and branding SEO, there's a whole playlist that I'm doing with Jason. There's 10 different episodes. Make sure you check out the link in the description where we dig deeper into certain other topics all related to branding and entity SEO in 2026. Jason, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks, James. Delightful.